I'm from Norway, and Saturday morning in Norway no one would have showed up, so happy that you all are here. Today we will talk about a very important topic. We will have this presentation and then we will have some Q&A, so think about any questions you have and please feel free to ask in the end. The important topic we will talk about today is Bitcoin mining. It's an industry that could transform Ethiopia. It could become a very important industry for this country, provide a lot of opportunities for people here. So you should pay attention to this one. So we are HashLabs Mining. Alan here from Kazakhstan, background from Glencore. I'm in the middle here. I'm from Norway, work with technology. Marek is a technology expert, ran his own AI marketing agency. We're here in Ethiopia to explore the potential of Bitcoin mining here. So let's start with talking about some of Ethiopia's economic challenges. So you have a massive electricity surplus here that is currently unutilized. You're not getting the value out of your electricity that you actually could get. You have a very large trade deficit, several $billion per year. This makes Ethiopia very dependent on the World Bank, and of course it's not good for Ethiopia. Lack of foreign currency. There's also a lack of scalable industries here. Ethiopia has so much commodities and so many people who can work here. But unfortunately, there's only a few large industries that are providing most of the exports. So it would be beneficial to find more export-oriented industries that can be largely scaled up. So let's start. What is Bitcoin mining? So one machine like this, electricity goes into the machine. It generates Bitcoin. One such machine consumes 3.3 kilowatt, which is approximately the same electricity consumption as one mitad, which you guys know, you use it to cook. So you can imagine one such machine can generate about $15 a day of Bitcoin. You plug it into the wall, let it run, consumes electricity, you get Bitcoin in return, about $15 a day. So imagine having a mitad plugged into the wall that generates $15 a day. And one nice thing about mining is that it's very scalable. You can combine as many of these machines as you want. As you can see in the picture here, this is a Bitcoin mining facility. It consists of 300 machines consuming 1 megawatt of power, generating about $4,500 per day. You can have 2 megawatts, 3 megawatts, as many megawatts as you want. You just scale in the number of machines. So on the picture to the right is one of the largest Bitcoin mining facilities in the world. It's 500 megawatts, generating about $2.25 million per day in revenue. And this is electricity. As you can see, the farm here on the right, located very close to a power plant. This power plant had unutilized electricity capacity, which is now utilized by this Bitcoin mining farm, generating revenue that otherwise would never be generated. Where are the Bitcoin miners currently in the world? The largest nation is USA, about 40%, followed by China, 15%, Russia, 12%, Kazakhstan 3.5%, Canada 5%, Norway, where I'm from, it's about 1.5%, and Ethiopia is less than 1% currently. But we believe that Ethiopia could eventually have about 5 to 10% of all the Bitcoin mining in the world. So why are the Bitcoin miners located in these countries? They need cheap power. That's the main thing they need. In the US, you have some locations with extremely cheap power, but power is cheaper here in Ethiopia. So why are the miners in the US when you have even cheaper power here? Miners also look for places where it's not too hot, because these machines generate enormous amounts of waste heat. So having the machines in a location where it's not too hot is extremely beneficial. For example, the biggest state in the US in mining is Texas. It has about 15% of all the mining in the world right now. But many miners in Texas struggle with heat. They need to shut down their machines in the summer. They lose a lot of money by doing that. Here in Ethiopia, you have between 15 degrees to 25 degrees whole year. It's very perfect for mining. So that's, you have these two combinations here. You have a moderate climate and extremely cheap electricity, which makes Ethiopia currently is the most promising place in the world for mining. We will see a lot of growth here. And you can also see that in Africa generally it's very little mining right now. But it's going to change. It's going to be not only in Ethiopia, but in other places as well. In Nigeria has a lot of growth, Angola as well, Uganda, Tanzania. But Ethiopia has the most potential. Ethiopia will be the leader in African Bitcoin mining and one of the world leaders as well. We're also seeing now many American miners, they're contacting us. They want to find a way to mine in Africa because they realize that they need to find cheaper electricity than they have in the US. So this is a very big opportunity for Ethiopia. What makes Bitcoin mining unique and what makes it the perfect industry for Ethiopia? Well, Bitcoin mining, of the operational expenses, it's about 90% is electricity. So you have almost nothing else to think about. You just plug the machines in, they consume a lot of electricity, and you get money in return, Bitcoin. So for a country that has such a massive electricity surplus, Bitcoin mining is perfect. It's a way of selling electricity without building transmission lines. A very simple industry that it just uses the excess electricity. Ethiopia has so much electricity. So this is the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, one of the most marvelous engineering projects currently being built on the planet. Ethiopia currently has 5 gigawatts of generation capacity. This will quickly increase to 10 gigawatts within the next couple of years. So already with this 5 gigawatts of current capacity, Ethiopia has 2 to 3 gigawatts of excess electricity generation. So imagine when you get 10 gigawatts, then you have like 7 gigawatts of excess capacity. And you need to find a way to maximize the value of these gigawatts. It's a massive opportunity for Ethiopia. And this can potentially be increased as well. If you utilize all the potential of hydropower in this country, you could generate 45 gigawatts. So you have more than enough electricity. And Bitcoin mining is the perfect consumer of this electricity. So this is why Ethiopia should mine Bitcoin. Only this chart explains it all. On the left side here is the average revenue per megawatt hour of Bitcoin mining since 2019, $239. A miner in the US pays about $50 per megawatt hour on average. So an American miner can make about almost 5 times the value of the energy they use is going to Bitcoin. But in Ethiopia, the industrial electricity price is $20. So it's the lowest price in the world. And if you just sell this electricity to the grid, let's say you have a power plant in Ethiopia, you just sell it to the grid, you might get $20 per megawatt hour, which is almost nothing. If you use it to mine Bitcoin, you can generate $239 per megawatt hour. That's a 1,200% increase. So it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you do it? Like, do you want to earn $20 or $239? It's so simple. And you wouldn't need to build transmission lines and all this infrastructure. You can build a Bitcoin mine directly at your power plant, minimize power losses, much lower investment in infrastructure, and you get $239 per megawatt hour. And you will also be much more competitive than the American miners. As we saw here, 40% of mining is happening in the US. What will happen to these guys when the Ethiopians can have more than half of their costs? The Ethiopian miners will outcompete the American miners. It's not possible to compete with $20 per megawatt hour. So, as mentioned, Ethiopia has a problem of a trade deficit. You have several $1 billion in trade deficit. You export 4.4 billion a year. You import 11.8 billion per year. This can't continue. Bitcoin mining can provide $1.6 billion per year in export income for Ethiopia. So this is a 36% increase in export income. So coffee is a huge industry in Ethiopia, $1.2 billion a year. Bitcoin mining could be bigger than that. And that's very realistic. If Ethiopia used 2 gigawatts of electricity for Bitcoin mining, you could generate $1.6 billion a year from that. And the unique thing here is that it's a very quickly growing industry. This can happen within 2-3 years. So you could see a massive boost in the export income of Ethiopia, which would have an extremely beneficial effect on the Ethiopian economy. So you should be prepared to see that in 2-3 years you can have actually much more economic growth in this country than most people believe will happen because of Bitcoin mining. Here are some questions you should ask yourself. Why is Ethiopia such an excellent place for Bitcoin mining? I will give you some hints. I already spoke about it. Extremely cheap electricity and a cool climate. Like not only electricity is cheaper, almost everything is cheaper. So you have an you also benefit a lot from this industry. So it's a win-win situation. You can also ask, how can Bitcoin mining transform this country? And how can you use what you learned today to become involved in this industry? Because this industry is an extremely big opportunity for this country and for each individual in this country. So getting involved in this industry can provide enormous opportunities for you. So this quote is quite relevant for Ethiopia and actually for most countries, especially a lot of African countries. Who controls the food, controls the nation. Who controls the energy, controls continents. Who controls the money, controls the world. So let's do some questions.
Okay, so we've reached the question and answer segment. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I think it was an exciting presentation. I think it definitely gives a lot of emotion and force information. So thank you, Yaran, for the presentation. Q&A, I think if this is a small enough room for us to, not have to raise hands, so feel free to contribute.
So my first question is, you are proposing is in a huge scale, but is there any way to contribute from small investments or only for big investors?
This is an opportunity for like any kind of investment, because here you see that it's very scalable. You can own one machine, you can own 300 machines, you can own 150,000 machines. It's up to you how many machines you want to own. And you have different operating models of mining. You can either own the entire facility with all the machines, or you can own the infrastructure, the data center, and you just rent out space to people who own the machines, basically like a hotel. So this enables people to own like one machine, two machines, three machines, etc. So it's open for everyone.
I have a question maybe following that. How often is the payment distributed?
For mining, payment is distributed once a day. So you will get Bitcoin from your machine. It will send Bitcoin to what is called a mining pool, and you have a mining pool account, and there you get all your Bitcoin once a day.
One more follow-up question before we moved over there. Is there a way for you to receive your payment in another currency like dollar, if that's your preference?
Yeah, that's possible. We have a lot of investors who, some receive payment in Bitcoin, some receive payment in dollar, some receive payment in USDT, a stable coin. So you can choose, basically. Yeah.
Thank you. What the cost of one machine, one mining machine?
One machine, it varies because some machines have a higher energy efficiency than some other machines. The general cost is about $2,000 to $4,000 per machine.
I think this would be a very good opportunity, personally for me, that I can look at, meaning that I am a power producer. Instead of connecting it to the grid, now I can probably provide you power directly to you, which I have the capacity to produce close to 200 megawatts. So is there a way also we can look into the partnership where we generate the power and where you basically bring the Bitcoin machines and integrate it and incorporate it as a business?
Yes, this is something we look for here in Ethiopia. It's why we're here. We, as foreigners, want to find some locals to cooperate with who can provide access to electricity, and we can build the facilities and operate them, take care of everything related to mining, and pay for electricity or share the profit of the mining. Yeah, it's possible. Alan, maybe you can tell more about how such a cooperation would look like.
just few things about the mining, like as Yaron mentioned, the mining process, right? The energy goes in, Bitcoins goes out, but thermodynamics tells what's into what energy is converted. The conversion happens into heat because there's a lot of chips, they get hot, and as Yaron mentioned, the heat is a byproduct in our process. Heat, as we know, may be applied to many applications, from drying fruits, tobacco, probably coffee, beans. You can heat up your fish farm because, as you've heard, the modular fish farms allow you to be more efficient and produce nutrients inland, right? So these are the sort of applications, or greenhouse, where you require to maintain a certain temperature to grow certain sensitive vegetables, right? Because some of them have a different temperature tolerance. And these are applications that could be utilized. Even use cases in America where a sauna or a swim club was heated by the mining machines. Because we can provide a constant 70 degrees temperature on a heat exchanger. This allows a lot of enterprises to gain competitive edge. So meaning that you can utilize the existing infrastructure or integrate mining system into your production facility, creating new revenue, affecting your cost of production of your main product, therefore being more competitive in the market. Yeah.
Alan, maybe as a follow-up question, if we were to build a facility at a wind farm, how would that look like? What do we need of infrastructure, etc.?
So,
what are the benefits?
You know, the renewable energy is intermittent. So we talk about solar, there's a bell curve, and the wind. Wind flows in one direction, there's a corridor. So when it stops, all these wind farms along the corridor could be not generating energy. In this case, a system has to understand what's the minimal power generation and the maximum and that fluctuation, and find the sweet spot, how much energy at constant rate or close to up to 24 hours a day utilization rate we can capture. And that amount of energy can be calculated. So let's say you have a 200 megawatt facility, out of which perhaps 10 megawatt could be constantly absorbed, or perhaps more than that. Yeah. Just a guess. I don't know the constant flow in here. I assume it's a mountainous area, so the wind always blows from the mountain down the hill, right? Yeah. So perhaps you have a constant wind, and we can utilize even more than 80% of your generated energy. Yeah.
Yes?
I have a question. I have a question. What about the regulations from the government to mining process or for the mining companies? Have you made any research about it? How's working the regulations inside the country?
Yeah, currently the mining industry is not specifically regulated, but we have heard rumors that INSA is drafting a law. And we're very positive about Bitcoin mining from a regulatory perspective in this country, because we see how much Ethiopia benefits from this sector. And it will generate so much export income. So far, the government is very open to the industry, and we believe that that will continue with a new regulation that potentially coming up. So yeah, we're very positive towards it.
Just to add a few words, because of the young population and also in the government, the open-mindedness and willingness to adopt latest technologies, one of the advantages that Africa has is that the technological progress that we had like over the past, let's say, 80 years, Africa is able to skip all that infrastructure build-out that is just, simple cable. Now you have telecommunications that allows you to just build towers and send a signal over the distance, right? So the growth expectations of Africa, especially Ethiopia as well, is going to be tremendous because you skip that technological gap, yeah, and applying the latest tech.
Yeah, and this is a very good point, because like I'm from Norway, I can tell you that when you talk to some politicians in Norway or regulators or even like business people, most of them are not open to Bitcoin or open to Bitcoin mining. These are the like Norway, Europe, very developed. They want to just continue doing what they have done for 50 years. They don't want to even think about something new. Ethiopia, people here are young. They understand that the country is in growth. You're testing out new things, and the people are very open to Bitcoin and mining. And so this is what we have learned here. People are very open to it. So, for example, all you guys who come here, very happy to see you here. You are open to this industry and this new money, and you're not alone. It's millions of Ethiopians just like you. So that makes us even more optimistic, because every year is just going to be more and more people like you in Ethiopia who believe in this technology, and yeah, so that's why we're very optimistic long term here.
And just to say something big, I truly believe that hydro energy of Ethiopia, the exports it can generate, is the oil of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, for the future electrification of society, Ethiopia is perfectly positioned for that. And let's say in 20, 30 years, probably all of the cars are going to be electric. The country will be much more developed. You will use much more electricity than currently. And you now have the electricity generation capacity to actually grow a lot. You have so much room to grow. But in the meantime, you need to figure out what to do with all this unutilized electricity, because it's a huge loss if you're not maximizing the value of this electricity. Mining is perfect for that. Let's say you have 2 gigawatts of mining here, and then the electricity consumption of Ethiopia, of the people, is just continuing to increase. And then you reach a point where mining is actually not needed anymore in Ethiopia, because you have other industries that are producing more value for that electricity. That's going to happen one day. And then mining is very easy to move to other places. So mining is filling that temporary need for an industry to refine this electricity. So currently you're exporting a lot of electricity. You earn about $100 million a year from exporting electricity. And this is nothing compared to what you can earn by using it to mine Bitcoin. So why build these huge transmission lines to neighbors, to the neighboring countries, when you can use it to mine Bitcoin? Or you can do both. Having the ability to actually export electricity through the internet by mining Bitcoin also gives you more negotiating power with the countries that you can export to. So you actually not so much need that they buy your electricity. You can just, okay, if you don't want to pay me this, I will just use it to mine Bitcoin. So very advantageous.
That is why we said about that quote, who controls the energy controls the continents. And in this case, Ethiopia, as you understand, is centered, surrounded by other neighbors, countries. You have so much power that you can you have no choice to whom to sell or consume yourself. So that's why, let's say, government spends money to build power lines to neighboring countries using their taxpayers' budget, right? And instead, now you have alternative choice. You say, okay, I can be independent and sovereign country, an energy independent country, because now I have an alternative outlet where I can completely monetize my own energy source within our land, right? Basically within the country, Ethiopia.
Yeah, and this is also unique for this industry, because Ethiopia is a landlocked country. So you're actually very dependent on the port in Djibouti. And Bitcoin mining allows you to export electricity through the internet. So it's actually, you just generate the value inside Ethiopia. It doesn't need to be shipped physically to other countries. So that's one of the benefits. Yes, please.
I have two questions. The first is about technicians. Every industry is developing will need. Thank you very much. Every industry that is born will need specific technicians about certain topics. So, how hard will it be for Ethiopia to capacitate another Ethiopians to manage this industry? And the second question is, Ethiopia will benefit from Bitcoin mining because they are going to be consuming electricity that will be repaid to the electricity company. But will be another way Ethiopia will be benefiting economically from this mining industry?
So the first question, how Ethiopians can contribute to this industry, and if Ethiopians have enough technical know-how inside the country to build this industry. And the answer is absolutely. It's so many young Ethiopians who want to learn new things, new skills, and yeah, it's not a problem at all. We would be very happy to hire many Ethiopians in this industry.
From my side, I believe that I'm so sorry. Yeah, from my side, I believe that there is so many indirect businesses associated with data centers, from repair centers, logistics, and educational-wise, we believe and we see evidence of young youth being very talented in IT space. Kalkasa, as many have been invited by him, organizes a lot of educational events, runs some kind of like computer science hackathons where they help young students to present their projects and get awarded. We being part of that, with donating funds to the educational efforts of Kalkasa. For every unit that we bring into this country, we donate $10 per machine to the fund. And we believe that with the education, we can create a talented workforce here, not just for the domestic market, because developing skills in the new digital era, not just about Bitcoin or repair the machines, but we're talking about marketing, digital strategies, how the now global e-commerce works. These skills can help young talented Ethiopians to even get employed by the global data centers scattered around the world, right? And this is something that we want to also develop here.
Yeah, for example, there is, Carl told us a story about a Swedish Ethiopian. He is Ethiopian but lives in Sweden. He started working in Bitcoin mining in Sweden, northern Sweden, and he got very good at repairing machines, like all these technical things you need to do on the facility. He became very good at it, and he started hiring other Ethiopians in this business. So he started his own company that repairs machines when they break down. So now they're traveling around the world. A team of around 10 Ethiopians travels around the world to facilities in the US, Sweden, and Norway, everywhere, fixing machines. So this is an opportunity as well for Ethiopians. Like, it's you have so much potential here. You have 120 million people here, and most of them are young. Of course, it's more than enough people to work in this industry here.
There's a question here. And the woman. Okay. And the woman behind. She was first.
Okay, I have 2 questions. The first one is, I mean, this seems to be a very clear, no-brainer way of generating Forex for a country that's pretty much, you know, dying of Forex right now. My question is, what is the hurdle? Because as you said, I mean, this is the shortest presentation that I've seen that makes sense. And it's a proven business case. And one of our biggest export being coffee, as you put it on the presentation, is 1.1 billion. And Bitcoin mining will generate $1.6 billion. Why aren't we doing this? That's my first question, because it's very clear, and like I said, I think it's a proven business case. The second question is in terms of ownership, because you bring a technology like this, and most people will be cynical in terms of you'll probably make 3-4 times more than what the country is getting. In a sense where how can Ethiopians have some kind of ownership of this revolution? If it costs $2,000 to $4,000 to own one Bitcoin machine, most Ethiopians don't have the forex to be able to generate that. Is there some kind of program to have the domestic market have some kind of ownership towards this outside of the technical and all the other jobs that come along with it? Maybe that could be the deciding factor in terms of the government moving, giving it high priority. Because for me, this, the two bits between Bitcoin and coffee, we're probably spending, tens of millions of dollars trying to export coffee versus this is a plug and play concept. So where do you find, how do we get this, to move forward?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, this is already taking off in Ethiopia. You have a few of these facilities in the country already, which are building, scaling, and in 1 year it will be a big industry here. So we are here because we also want to build our own facility, and we want to find people to work with. So that's also why we're here today. So yeah, it's happening here. And as everything in Ethiopia, you have a lot of potential, but it's a lot of bureaucracy. So that's a biggest challenge right now. Otherwise, everything is just plain clear to build out. And your second question about how Ethiopia can capture as much value as possible from this industry, it's a very valid one, because the 1.6 billion here is if all the Bitcoin mined was actually going into Ethiopia. But there are different models of mining, of doing this. So you could either just sell the electricity to the miners, then you will get you will not capture the most value, but it's very simple and you don't have to invest nothing. So this is how the Ethiopian Electric Power makes money from this industry. They sell the power to the miners, and they don't have to invest in nothing. They just get paid for extra power than they otherwise would not be able to sell. The second way of doing this business is called hosting. So you build a facility and you own the facility itself, and then miners, most of them from other countries, but probably also some Ethiopians, whoever want to invest in the machines. Let's show the machines. Yeah, whoever want to invest in these machines, they buy the machines and they send them to this facility. The facility plugs them in like this, and the facility is operating the machines. So the owners of the machines, they get all the Bitcoin. And the owners of the machines might be in Ethiopia or not in Ethiopia. It all depends. And yeah, one machine is between $2,000 to $4,000. It's a big investment for the average Ethiopian. We're working on a way to fractionalize these machines so that you can, for example, buy 1% of a machine, 5% of a machine, to open up for investment for more people. But generally, we believe that if you want to just buy a small part, invest very little, it's better actually to buy a little bit Bitcoin. Yeah, because it's much simpler. So if you want to invest like a substantial amount, mining is a very good industry. But if you not want to invest so much, then Bitcoin is probably better. So the way Ethiopia can capture most of this value, 1.6 billion, is if Ethiopia mines Bitcoin themselves. So they build the facilities and they own all the machines, then this is something that could be generated and captured inside Ethiopia. Probably the Ethiopian government will cooperate with miners to do this in the future. I'm in Norway, where I'm from. We had the oil industry coming in, and in the beginning, the Norwegian government was opening up for foreign companies to come in and build the industry because we didn't have the expertise. And then the foreign companies came in, provided the knowledge, and then the Norwegians learned from this, and eventually Norway started their own oil company. So this is something that could be done in Ethiopia as well. So in the long term, we think Ethiopia will probably mine Bitcoin themselves. Yeah.
And if they do that, they can also, this is a dollar term revenue. Imagine that at some point the government learns more and believes more into this technology. They start holding it as a treasury. And with the growth rate that we saw, Ethiopia can be one of the richest nations in the world. I hope no one laughs because this is true and it's possible.
Just like what is happening in Salvador, actually.
Absolutely.
One question here.
We keep coming back to learning and education. So this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. We are in a nation that has 110, 120 million people, and a large majority of that is very young. So when we come to the education system, even the Ministry of Education's pass rate numbers for 12th grade are shocking. For 2 consecutive years, we've had 3.2 and 3.3 pass rate. That means about 97% have failed the government's own. Yeah, I know. It's shocking. I don't think we talk about it enough, but it has made news, headlines. So when we talk about passing on, like when we talk about leapfrogging and learning this information, I really want to bring education to everybody's attention. So there are programs and projects coming up that require companies in every sector to take in young people, apprenticeship programs. And I was talking to Gal about this, and my major interest here is how can we facilitate, because there will be a lot of individuals and a lot of organizations. There will be a lot of organizations coming in very interested in this. I mean, this is the next iteration of money. Yes? How many in Ethiopia really understand this? We are right now talking to the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of Ethiopians. And yes, Ethiopians and even others around the world will see the potential and they will come. But how can we bring in the population? And let's not forget 85% of that 110, 120 million are rural, not urban. So the divide only gets wider. The gap only gets wider. I'm really interested in how we can communicate and connect with the organizations and the individuals who come here, who have the capacity and who have the resources. How can we bring the young people in? Thank you.
Wouldn't you also agree?
Sure. Why don't I follow your response?
Yeah, so we know that Carl is working on this, and he is well aware of the need to bring in the rural population and not only focusing on the 1% of the 1%. Bitcoin mining facilities can be placed anywhere, and currently most facilities here in Ethiopia are located very close to the capital, close to where we are now. But most of the electricity production is happening in rural areas. So eventually, more and more facilities will be built close to the hydropower dams in very rural areas, and this will provide lots of jobs for people in the rural areas. And of course, education will be done in these facilities. So this is the main way Bitcoin mining can help rural populations. We've seen this in the US as well. Most of the facilities there are in rural areas. They provide jobs in areas where most of the population didn't really have access to jobs. So this is really how it can help the rural areas. So Carl, please continue.
Thank you, Jarn, and thank you, Ida, for that excellent and necessary question. In terms of education, that's what I've been working on. So through a brand called Bitcoin Bur, it's completely free education. So we've translated a few books into the Amharic language, Tigrinya and Afan Oromo. So you can find a little Bitcoin book on bitcoinbur.org. It's free to download. There are several online lectures and presentations, including a few online examples. We've been invited by INSA to give a presentation to 40 of their officials. One is here today with us. I won't point them out. And we also have started an engagement to expand that education to 2,000 of their students. So we hope to see that education expand. Hash Labs has been great in sponsoring this. So every time I give education, we fund wallets, so Bitcoin wallets. So they funded, thousands of dollars so far. We're giving away $1 to $5 of Bitcoin. So there is kind of circulation going on. There's education going on. We're thinking to take that same exam that was provided to INSA and move it into kind of the general population, provide that to public and private universities and so on. They're also looking at potentially establishing a physical center here now that they're planning for a second PLC. We'll probably here in the capital have a facility to engage education, so we won't have to keep coming into hotels and X, Y, and Z. That being said, we've had excellent partners, Google Developer Group, ALX Ethiopia. We've had BitDevs in Austin, Texas, host me quite a few times. And so the education is there. We're slowly rolling it out. To Ida's point, it's not our intention to keep this in the 1%. I think some of these mining activities will require financing. It will require kind of larger industrial players. But as for the education, as for the wallet education and the general understanding of what this technology is, we're providing that education for free, thanks in part to Hash Labs.
Maybe I'll add one more thing. We also planning to create online courses with curriculum about not only Bitcoin, but also some values what people should have to understand this new monetary system as well. And there should be some curriculum. In the end, should be some quiz and test. And after who will pass, they can apply for the jobs specific to their passions. That's what I was saying.
Thank you. Actually, when I came here, I just came here to see what's going on. I didn't have any ideas. Of course, I know Bitcoin. And now I want to be an investor in this. But what I need is two critical things. One is on the government side, have you finished any hindrance? Because we do project in this country, the biggest problem is the government. So that has to be the major things. After that is basically, if you have a business plan or a feasibility studies, that will help us to make the judgment that this is a optimum business for us to engage. Because as you said, coffee is 1.1 million, and we can generate 1.6 or beyond. That's going to be great for Ethiopia. By our goal in this country to build capacity, so that we can extend ourselves to help the country. So I think if we can get those two things, then I would like to look into the opportunity investing in this venture.
Thank you. We appreciate that you believe in our business and in this industry. And yeah, we'll be happy to talk more about that as well.
In terms of confidence, what we see so far, due to open-mindedness, right, and willingness to change and create a new revenue stream for the nation, thanks to INSA and the work of Calcasa as well to educate, right, the government, it helped to facilitate over the past, let's say, 1.5 years, a tremendous shift in the mindset has happened that allowed already 500 roughly capacity to be online already in Ethiopia, which wouldn't be possible 2 years ago. And within a short span of time, like maybe Q1 of last year, that's when the approval happened, action started, investments flowing, and facilities raised up. And this is all thanks to this tailored or bespoke approach by the government body. Because as all of you know, it's highly regulated. You have all this type of licenses for traditional businesses. This is a new type of business. And in order to incentivize foreigner flow of funds, you need to create a new framework, which has been created. And these terms, on terms of legality, importing machines and the permission by INSA is actually already in place. We have a facility, 120 megawatt is being built, where you have few containers being plugged in, meaning that the government themselves, they see the opportunity and they encourage us and create a very attractive and positive environment for this type of business to grow here.
Okay. Thank you. I love the scalability aspect of the business most, and profitability, and also the partnership. But I have one question here. I think Bitcoin mining has its own some kind of negative impact, environmental impact. I think environmental impact. Have we done some a holistic environmental impact assessment? What to do? I think the global warming, something Ethiopia follows the green economy. So we need to come up with this holistic environmental impact assessment thing. And also, when you say scalability, I think we can also invest in one machine, one Bitcoin mining machine. Yes, so that can also be in household level, I think.
That's correct.
Yeah. So there should be rules and regulations, I think.
If you can plug in the metad
yeah.
and make food, then you can also plug in the Bitcoin.
I love that aspect also. I love that aspect. But also we need also to come up with its impact. If someone comes up with, personally, I want to make money at household level. That's why I first asked what the cost of the one machine. You see? But it is not possible from the legal aspect and from the environmental aspect and everything. So everything should be clear, so that we can be investors and we can do the business together freely. See,
let me answer first environmental impact. So, Bitcoin mining is an industry. The only thing Bitcoin mining really does is to consume electricity. So, for example, the coffee industry, I don't know this industry in detail, but I can imagine they have a lot of waste, for example, waste water, etc., that they need to get rid of. Bitcoin mining has no real waste. You just generate electricity. It's very clean. Like, look at this facility here. Is no waste coming out. You just consuming the electricity. So the environmental impact only depends on the source of that electricity. And in Ethiopia, you have about 95% hydropower, 4% wind, 1% solar, 100% renewable energy. So if you look at it from a CO2 perspective, Bitcoin mining in Ethiopia doesn't emit anything. So actually, expanding mining in Ethiopia would be a net positive for the environment, because Ethiopian miners have so low electricity cost that they outcompete miners in places with higher electricity cost. For example, in China, a lot of miners use coal. In America, some miners use coal as well. And if you mine in Ethiopia, you're bringing more, you're outcompeting these miners who use coal, which is more expensive. You're putting them out of business by using clean energy. So it would actually have a net positive effect on the environment to expand mining in Ethiopia.
Personally, I want to add, for produce 1 kilogram of coffee, for example, we need 500 to 800 liters of water. And the first human activity that will consume oil fuels is agriculture, because we need to transport the food, we need to transport fertilizers, we need to use tractors, etc. So in Bitcoin mining, you are producing the electricity in situ, in the same place you are consuming the electricity. You don't have more expenses, and the water you are using for produce electricity here in the earth is the same water that you are using expanding in Bitcoin mining. So to be honest, it's actually very green and activity.
Excuse me, before you start, the discussion the gentleman had about the home mining, right? Just to touch a little bit on that. So this is a business, right? So as any regulation around the country, you got to be a legal entity as an individual or as a company. Now, home mining obviously is not a business, however, a way of creating this opportunity, right, for yourself. Now, as you know, the network, the electricity, people say, oh, there is a shortage of electricity, or there is like unstable electricity. It doesn't mean that there is not enough energy. It means that maybe the infrastructure here within the city center is lacking. Now, when imagine that you have a washing machine, you have that cooking device, and now you have additional 2 more cooking devices. Suddenly, the consumption of energy increases within the city's infrastructure, which puts pressure on, because when you do the design of the city, you never assume that now you're going to have 3 cooking devices and 2 washing machines and maybe even 5 of them at home, right? And now everyone having, so it would never accounted for that extra consumption. So we don't encourage that kind of activity, even though it's totally possible. Second, in safety measures, without proper wiring, a fire can be ignited because the amperage is higher than the normal home appliances. So these factors, that is why we suggest to work with the professional companies with the industrial grade infrastructure, like we show you here, that is well maintained, increases the lifespan of machine, because it's a computer that runs likely almost forever, as long as you take care of it nicely. Of course, the machine's progression in terms of model and efficiency does happen, and some machines become obsolete, but the lifespan is 9-10 years. One machine can run and work for you on a 24-hour basis. Yeah.
And maybe before we get to the next question, I can add something here. We talked about, is it environmentally friendly? What's the impact on the ecology, the environment, and so on? Speaking holistically and thinking holistically, half of Ethiopians do not have access to power. They don't have energy in their household. And so I think that's the greater picture. I know, most of us here are, as you would call it, ESG friendly. Many times it's baked into kind of the agenda of how we participate and work. Sustainable, correct? Sustainable protocol. I think Yaran could add a little bit more on here, but I think we should remember that half of Ethiopians do not have power, so we need some sort of a scheme to get the substations into those rural areas. And at present, the residential rates are not attractive for it to be, let's say, make business sense. So this makes business sense. They have the scale, they have the financial abilities to not only consume the power, but produce the power. And so as that happens along the Nile, additional Gilgay Gibes, as the 5 gigawatts turns into 10 gigawatts, this will be great for the people of Ethiopia. So it is a holistic solution, and it is ESG friendly by providing half of Ethiopia with power that they never had before.
Yeah, let me add something to that. So the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, it's extremely inspiring to see such huge electricity projects, because in Norway, in Europe generally, they don't build no more hydropower, even though they could. But here you're actually doing it, and that's very inspiring. So this dam is located in the north. It's close to the border of Sudan. It's barely lives people there, very remote area. So you're generating this, it will be 7 gigawatts, and you're generating this in a place where it's far from where people actually consume the electricity. So what if we could build a facility, a Bitcoin mining facility there? And by then, you would have the first factory there. People would start to move there. You would have value generation happening exactly at this power plant. So eventually what started as a Bitcoin mining facility could eventually become a small town and grow to a city after a few years. So this is how Bitcoin mining could affect this area potentially in the future.
And additionally, as infrastructure build-out process looks like, is that as a national energy distribution company, right, the one you know, they plan ahead for the 5-10 years. Where do we need to build power lines and substations across the nation where the industry is going to flow and where the demand will be created for that energy? So they have to plan in advance. Imagine that there is a region somewhere in the north, lots of population, but no nearby substation. Then they look, okay, we build a substation there, we put the transmission lines there. How much energy this population area can consume? They say, oh, so we need to build a big one for the future. At current state, probably 5% of that substation consumption. Then they look, okay, this is not enough because there's a base load that is necessary for the substation to service and operate properly. Otherwise, the service life shortens significantly. So you're kind of wasting money. You know it's going to get broken too fast. So how to create that demand? Then you say, how about we invite industry? Industry says, wait, build the infrastructure there first, and maybe I come, right? And consume that potentially energy. Now, it's like a chicken-egg problem. When mining comes in, we say, okay, don't worry, build your substation, provide that electricity for that area. We will bring our data center to that substation, increase your load to the satisfiable level. Your ROI as a government body investing these funds is improved. Now you have substation in place that industry now can come and say, oh, you have everything in place. So we become a bridge between the demand and supply, and we accelerate the growth of the network, transmission network of the country. Yeah. This is a significant contribution to the balance sheet of the government or any state-owned enterprise operations.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. The presentation was highly enlightening. My name is Nate. I'm from Muratab and the Gateway Advocates LLP. I am the legal director for their tax practice. And I have my colleague here, Mike, who is a corporate lawyer, who could answer some of the regulatory questions that are raised here. So I have one question and concerns. My question is, what kind of product do the Bitcoin company or the mining company sells? Like, from my understanding, the sellable product is Bitcoin. So it is not a good, it's a kind of service, something which is not tangible. But again, when you see it's an export of service, which has different treatment under our taxation laws. So I want to know a bit about the transaction. What is the sellable product and how it is going to be exported? And my concerns are, as per my information, currently around 9 companies who work on mining had an investment permit and had an agreement with EEP, Ethiopia Electric Power, for power supply. And also EEP, exceptionally got a grant from National Bank to sell electricity in USD. That's a big achievement for the EEP, so that because many of the supply only generates in BER. So this is a huge milestone for the country, and I have participated on one transaction. I have assisted one database and cloud service company. The problem that I see is with the importation of the databases. Some of the databases are integrated in a container. Container comes to Ethiopia in a different condition. You put some guarantee in the accounts of ECC, then you can temporarily import container. But the thing is different when it comes to database, since the facilities will be inbuilt in the database. So for that, I have assisted one company because the HS code is silent. So I went to ECC to have a binding tariff information. Binding tariff information, for your information, is when you are not clear of what HS code will be applicable on your importation, you can request ECC to give you a binding tariff information based on the information you give them. So we got a decision on that regard. But the problem is, you didn't mention who is here from INSA, but I also want to comment for them on their platform, where the decision that we received from ECC is they labeled that database center as a prefabricated building. So the INSA platform only allows you for pre-import approval on electronics materials. It doesn't allow you for prefabricated buildings. So we end up in confusion. We didn't file online, but manually it is hard to submit your request to INSA. That will be also a concern. The other is regarding its VAT treatment. VAT treatment, in Ethiopia, electricity supply is VAT exempted. And again, if we say your product is an export service, again, it is zero-rated transaction. You have a zero-rated output, and you have exempted input. Tax credit will be difficult for you. So it's an area you should work on it. When you had a chance to discuss with the Ministry of Finance and EIC, these are one of the points you need to discuss. You have 90% electricity consumption, which is the largest input for your company. And again, which is exempted transaction. You don't have a bill for that, which you can tax credit. And again, your output is a zero-rated. Zero-rated, as some of you know, zero-rated transaction, it is to incentivize the exporter so that he brings foreign currency to the country. And you don't have a deductible thing here, which you can claim as a refund, but you have also a zero-rated export. So it's something to work on it. And regarding the investment, I think Mike is the mind here who can speak on that.
Maybe if I am allowed, I may jump into the regulation regarding Bitcoin mining. As Yaron indicated earlier, Bitcoin is not specifically regulated, but currently the trend we are seeing is that there is a kind of support by the government, specifically by one of the government agency, INSA, to support mining companies, Bitcoin mining companies. On the other hand, we see the National Bank of Ethiopia, which is the regulator for the financial industry. It basically prohibits Bitcoin transaction or cryptocurrency transaction inside the country. But briefly, we can say that it's allowed in Ethiopia to form a company, a Bitcoin mining company. And we have also witnessed some players are already in the industry. So I just want to ensure that it's okay to invest in this sector, yeah.
Thank you for providing all this information, legal information. So to your first point about Bitcoin being service, like intangible, yes, you can touch Bitcoin, but it exists. It's only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist. So you can verify that you own the Bitcoin, even though it's not physical, you own the Bitcoin. And in the US, Bitcoin is regulated as a commodity by the CFTC, and they have now approved a Bitcoin ETF, or actually several Bitcoin ETFs, just like gold. So
the Securities and Exchange Commission, led by Gary Gensler, about 3 weeks ago, have approved 10 to 15 ETFs, exchange-traded funds.
yes.
So these ETFs, they will allow Wall Street, traditional finance, those involved in the NASDAQ, NYSE, and so on. You will be able to buy this, as of now, using a Bloomberg terminal or your broker at Fidelity. As of now, Vanguard, VanEck, Bitwise, Fidelity, they've all opened an account. They all take custody, as in they take their private keys. And they, as of now, are oversubscribed. So what they thought would be a $500 million fund is growing into $2 and $3 billion. Each of these investment, I guess, institutions, yes. And so it is regulated in the States and here as well. As we mentioned with INSA, there are laws coming into place that are a little bit more specific, but we very much thank you for your support, and I think we'll be working more closely together. That's right. Vanguard is the conservative player in the room. I think that's also done because of some strategic intentions. Like Brooke had mentioned, Vanguard is still on the sidelines. They have a legacy to protect, and so they are very conservative. But from my understanding, their customers are demanding this, and so this is a short-term play to kind of differentiate themselves. But the market is moving towards adoption.
To your point, Vanguard owns shares of the biggest American exchange, crypto exchange, and one of the largest shareholders of the MicroStrategy, which holds lots of Bitcoin on its balance sheet.
150,000.
So it's kind of like contradicting. Yeah.
And BlackRock is also a player, although their fund is 50 million.
ETF allows, just 2 words, ETF allows now everyone in the world, moms and pops, grandparents, to buy just like Tesla stock in America, yeah, with your app.
Yeah, but the main point here is that Bitcoin, it's something new, mining is something new, but it's all getting more and more approval from a regulatory perspective around the entire world. And 10 years ago, nobody took it serious. 5 years ago, some people took it serious. And now we're seeing that even the biggest lawmakers in the world are taking it serious. So we expect the Ethiopian government as well and to take it serious. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's a very good presentation. I know about Bitcoin, but I didn't know about the mining. So it's a very informative, informative information. I'm one of those people who's invested in Bitcoin. And I did say earlier, I invested what I could afford to lose. And I was told, no, you should be able to invest the ones you can't afford to lose. Just a question going back to the basics. When you're talking about investing in on a machine, which is around about $4,400 US, are you asking investment onto the 120 machines which are already brought in, or are you expecting people to buy the machines to bring them here? Very basic question. For quite a number of people within Ethiopia, foreign currency might be an issue. So are the 4,400 or whatever amount they are, will they be expected to purchase or invest in international foreign currency? Will you be starting to accept in local currencies as well? Bearing in mind your cost will be in foreign currency. So basically, just somebody could explain that. I'm sure maybe a few people would want to know that as well.
Yeah, so we only accept foreign currency for purchases of machines. And this is mostly due to like regulatory reasons, and yeah, it's like beer is not a very strong currency, so yeah, we prefer to not hold so much beer. Yeah.
To touch on this topic, at the moment, due to regulation or let's say a bit of a lack of finalization of regulation, we are not in a stage where we are servicing the citizens of Ethiopia. At the moment, the ownership of the equipment belongs to the foreigner clientele as well as ours. We've so far brought here a couple thousands of machines that is in the process. And this is a stage one. Stage two, to service the local market, we would need to see on the regulation how the local citizens need to register their own entity, because it is a productive asset, it's a cash flow asset, right? So sort of a business thing. So we need to get some clarity on that. And of course, setting up the PLC to facilitate these kind of transactions in terms of BER, which is for the later stage in H1 this year.
Yeah, it's similar to the regulations in Norway. So most Norwegians or most Norwegian Bitcoin mining farms can't have customers from Norway due to some VAT and tax reasons. So unfortunately, it is like that at the moment, but we will work on that to help Ethiopians gain access to this industry and to own the machines.
Okay. Of course, we operate facilities in other countries. It's possible, but it requires a foreigner currency to work with our Dubai-based company, because it's an international service provider, right? We are. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question, like a business question actually. I'm seeing a lot of local people are interested in Bitcoin mining. So as an experienced miner, Bitcoin miner, tell us return on investment on the business from your real experience. How long does it take to get my return on investment?
So usually,
I know there are a lot of factors affect the ROI.
Yeah.
But beside that, tell us your experience.
Yeah, so I can tell the average return on investment. When you buy a machine or buy machines, you should aim for having these machines paid back within 1 year. If you do that, then you have a very high return. But the Bitcoin mining is a very volatile industry. Sometimes you can have 200% a year, even more, 500% a year. Sometimes you can lose money. It's very difficult to provide an exact return on investment. And it also depends on your operating model. If you're just selling electricity to the miners, you can't lose money. if you own the facility yourself, and let's say, so if you're selling electricity to the miners, you make about $20, $30, $40 per megawatt hour. If you actually own the facility yourself and you host other miners, you can make, like, let's say, between $50 and $60 per megawatt hour, a little bit more than if you just sell the electricity. If you own the machines, that's the risk. So if you own the machines, you're not earning stable income like that. It's very volatile. Sometimes very high, sometimes not so much. But generally, you will make a payback on the machines in about 1 year. And it also depends on your electricity cost. So this is why mining in Ethiopia is so beneficial, because you have the cheapest electricity in the world. And if you have so cheap electricity, it's very difficult to lose money in this industry. So you can, like, it's a cost competitive industry. If you operate in a cost competitive industry, for example, oil production is only based on the cost. So let's say you have a cost curve for the entire industry, and you are among the 10% who have the lowest costs. In a commodity industry, you are almost guaranteed to make money if you have among the lowest costs.
I have 2 questions. No video, please. Thank you. So 2 questions. The first one is, I came late to the presentation. The chart that you were showing, that was just on the screen, $1.6 billion from Bitcoin mining. Is that with a model assuming that we're only selling electricity, or does it include the other aspects of the model that you just discussed? That's my number 1 question. Number 2 question is, in the event that your investment goes through and other similar investments go through, but we get into a scenario where Ethiopia does not have much cheap excess electricity to sell to such entities, or decides not to sell to such entities, what can you do with the machinery? Are the GPUs useful for other kinds of computational activities?
That's 2 good questions. The first one, let's tackle that first. So this $1.6 billion is assuming that Ethiopia was using 2 gigawatts, and Ethiopia was actually mining themselves. They were getting all the Bitcoin. This is currently not how the industry is operating. It's if Ethiopia was either selling electricity to miners or hosting them, it would be about 500 million per year. So Ethiopia can make much more money if you mine yourself. But that's also, remember what I said, it's much higher risk. So you have to understand that with risk comes the potential reward as well. So, but the biggest potential is if Ethiopia actually mines Bitcoin. If you mine yourself, yeah. So, Alan, what was the second?
The second question about what happens if at some point the energy not allocated to the industry. What happens to the machinery?
Yeah. So first, you have so much energy here. It's you can have the growth of this industry for many years. Currently, the Bitcoin mining industry consumes about 20 gigawatts worldwide. And you have 2 to 3 gigawatts of excess electricity right now. And when you fully open the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, you might have 7 gigawatts of excess electricity. This 7 gigawatts is already about 1/3 of the global consumption of Bitcoin mining. So Ethiopia could gain 30% of this industry if you used all your excess electricity for it. So you have so much room for growth. And then if Ethiopia builds out 45 gigawatts, your potential of hydropower, and now we're not even talking about wind power. So you have just endless amount of electricity. So we don't see this industry having no growth barriers in this country at all. The machines, they are only used for mining Bitcoin. They can't be used for nothing else. So, yeah.
So, Brooke, to address your question, considering that the potential of existing sites that not been developed in Ethiopia equates to 45 gigawatt of additional energy, we don't see in the near future that being used up. Second, we would love to see a point in the future where there is no more excess energy for our industry. That would mean that the population and the other industrial sectors have picked up and filled that gap. That means that Ethiopia has become and already one of the leading countries in the world in terms of probably production of something, processing, etc.
And Brooke, that was an excellent question regarding the servers, the hardware, the A6 Bitcoin miners. Can we repurpose them? Can we retool them if at a later stage, we change our minds or strategy? So although Yaron made it clear that no, the servers will not be repurposed, they have one singular function, the rack space and the electricity that you've provided that facility can be reused into another data segment. So you can move into Microsoft. They invest $50 billion a year in data centers, right? You can move into Google, into Amazon. They're increasing their footprint in Ethiopia, in Africa. And I think we all understand AI is a growing data consumer. So these, although the servers will kind of lose their value over time, the rack space can be repurposed into other types of data configurations.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone also for the AI computing and other data centers, because it's building a Bitcoin mining facility like this is actually very, very simple, and it can be done very quickly. Bitcoin miners are ready to use that excess power immediately, and it takes a few months to build a facility. So once you already have that, as Carl said, just remove the machines and make some adjustments, and you have the AI data center. And Ethiopia has the infrastructure for the future.
From my experience, here in Ethiopia, we have a number of projects right now, hydro, wind and solar, waiting, but the biggest problem is the US currency. That's the biggest currency. What I mean by that is, we individuals and also the Ethiopian Electric Power can do that. Nowadays, as you know, it's no more EPC, engineering, procurement, construction. It's basically PPP. So now what we need, this business seems to work because you are generating, you're taking electricity, producing a product in this case, and then you're generating foreign currencies. Okay, so that's an excellent one because you have to pay the investment cost for the power production. If you do that, this is a fantastic result. Right now, the challenge that we have at this moment is to find an Ethiopian company that exports to generate foreign revenues and then bring it back to pay the loans for the Chinese or the Americans or the Germans. That's where it is. But in this case, if this can be done, I mean, AEP would be very happy to accept, and also would like to get involved in that, producing, whether the wind project or the solar project, so knowing that we'll be able to pay them in the US currency. So that's good. If you do that, it's very, very open.
Yeah, thank you for that point. So like Bitcoin mining, when you generate Bitcoin, you can actually view it as the same as you generate dollars, because you can just sell the Bitcoin. It's very extremely liquid, and yeah, you're basically just having the money printer that can print the US dollar here in Ethiopia.
Okay, you mentioned earlier that you guys also operate in other countries. So in terms of having, because Ethiopia has the cheapest power cost, what is the ROI, like let's say between Ethiopia and other countries? Because that would make it clear. The other thing is you have a lot of diasporas here and abroad as well. I see this as like the way to do like minimum investment. I have a lot of friends in the US and everywhere, and like they want to invest in Ethiopia, but coming here, opening a business, like that whole thing is another headache. But if this takes off, it'll be like something that they can partake on, to invest in their country or so, because $4,000 versus $150,000 for investment, that'll be a good way in. So if the ROI is much better in Ethiopia versus in Kazakhstan or in China or in the US, what's your pitch in terms of, because you have your own clientele, but then pitching it to Ethiopian diaspora saying you can invest $4,000 in your country and then you'll be helping whether it's EEP or whatever it is. So do you guys have like a clear idea in terms of how that's done?
Yes. Ethiopia, we are able to provide the cheapest Bitcoin mining services in the world in Ethiopia. It's no other nation which can provide such a low cost as Ethiopia.
At scale.
At scale, yeah. So as you can see on this chart, if you have $20 in industrial electricity price in Ethiopia, $50 in the US. In the US you have other costs higher, employment costs, etc. It will be more expensive in the US and probably twice the price almost in the US as here. And if you look here, 40% of the Bitcoin mining is happening in the US. So it's such a big potential to bring this to Ethiopia. Yes, please.
Let's wait for the microphone so the video can capture.
Yes, I have a suggestion for your company. Have you considering or planning make NFT ownership for the mining company, because you can obtain money for everywhere on the world? This is one way, cheapest way to everyone can invest in your company, because I see other small companies in the USA, they make NFT, so you can be an ownership of these machines.
Basically, just a few comments from my perspective. It also addresses Sir Mr.'s here topics that he just touched on. With this technology and what you mentioned with NFT, and not necessarily just NFT, it allows us to do to access global liquidity or raising funds through individuals globally. Just like this dam, the Renaissance Dam, was financed by the people, right? That was a revolutionary move. We are so impressed with this. So a similar concept can be done. Yeah, we just haven't really stepped our toes in that direction, but it's totally possible. And one of the beauty about this technology that we can do it, people can do it. We don't need anyone else. Yeah.
I want to make a comment that if Satoshi Nakamoto can see what you are doing here, he will be very proud of the big improvement you are making in the region.
Okay, hello. So my name is Nabiyu. I'm from the Ethiopian Blockchain Network. We've been doing some educational work on blockchain for the past few years. Since we got started, like for me personally, since I got started, first time when I got started, I started with Bitcoin mining at home. And one thing I had noticed was, I started with my computer, it was early on, and then I did bring some machines, but then the machines were quickly, I guess, inefficient. And I mean, you had earlier mentioned that the machines could last for 10 years. Yeah, my machine still works, but it's not even worth the electricity anymore, so I don't use it. It's just trash now. It's just kept in the corner collecting dust. So in your case, I just want to know, in terms of the machines, how often will you need to change them, or how often would we need to change them, or long term, how do you envision the efficiency of these machines going? or have we reached the peak already now?
And before Yaron answers this question, this is going to be our last question because we're moving into lunch. There are 2 venues set up for lunch, so we'll continue our questions as we break out into lunch. With that, Yaron, continue.
When I buy machines, I view them as lasting about three years before they have to be replaced by more efficient machines. So here in Ethiopia, we usually don't buy the most efficient machines, but they are reasonably efficient. We buy machines that can last for a few years. Because what is happening in Bitcoin mining is that it's constantly other people in the world are plugging in their machines, and it's a global competition to get a fixed amount of Bitcoin rewards. And then as other people plug in their machines and machines are constantly becoming more efficient, you have to also sometimes upgrade your machines to be able to compete in this industry and earn Bitcoin. So 3 to 4 years is the usual lifespan. Another advantage of mining in Ethiopia is that because you have so low costs here, you don't need to buy the most efficient machines, the most expensive machines. So when I said the price of one machine is between $2,000 to $4,000, it means that the most efficient machines are $4,000. But you can still get a very good machine for $2,000. By purchasing the less efficient machines, you save so much money, so much investment, and you can achieve a much higher return on investment. But all these miners in the United States here, they are forced to buy the newest machines, which are very expensive. And they achieve a much lower return on investment than miners in Ethiopia. So,
to add, so you know probably Moore's law, how the technology progresses and efficiency gains. We have machines that are running for 3 years, and they are now more profitable than they were in 2022. Not to say my personal opinion, some of the machines can run 5 to 8 years. And to answer your other question as well, machines, they migrate in search of the most affordable energy. We have a site in Kazakhstan in the west side where the oil fields are, small scale using flare gas, a gas that comes from the oil field and had to be burned. Now it goes through the generator, reducing emissions by 99% and having very affordable energy because they have no market where to sell that energy. And we come there, so we can monetize that energy. So answer your question, those machines could migrate to even cheaper locations where you need to solve that problem. Now, with the progress that we had over the past 10 years, is that the machines you bought, the next model probably had like 200% improvement in efficiency. When you look at the latest models, you have 15, 20, and it's lower and lower. The gains in improvements are getting smaller. So we would assume that machines having a better build quality in it and its efficiency will allow you to run and maintain these machines for years to come.
Thank you. So,
I just want to say thank you for everyone to coming. I am personally overwhelmed with the questions and engagement and how everyone was tentatively listening to our presentation. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your attention.
yeah. Yeah, I can just repeat what Alan said here. Thank you to all of you. We were expecting some people to come, and we know that Ethiopians very open to learning about this, but the amount of questions we received here was we not expecting. So thank you to all of you for that.
okay, so with that, we'd like to invite you to join us for lunch. We have a buffet set out, so please join us in the dining hall, and we can continue our questions or networking. If you've RSVP'd for the event, I have your contact information, and we can follow up with niceties.
If we haven't received your information, please do give it to us at some point. Also, we've taken photo and video of the event. If for some reason you'd like to remain private, please let us know in advance so we can edit the footage. Thank you so much.
Thank you.